30 seconds to go.
Going live in 25.
Okay, we are going in 20.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2.
All the world's a stage.
February 27, 2020. 27 people have been killed so far in New Delhi. Fear and tension remains high in the Indian national capital, which was forced into a communal battleground 4 days ago. Streets were riddled with blood as the heat of citizenship turned into a long ignited religious feud. February 20th, 2020. At least 20 civilians, including 9 children, were killed in the Idlib region on Tuesday under a Syrian army strike. The Syrian Observatory for Human Rights confirmed that schools and hospitals were among the targets. November 3rd, 2013. Tens of thousands of people have been forced to flee, seeing unprecedented levels of violence in the Central African Republic. The United Nations has warned that the Central African Republic is at the verge of spiraling down into a genocide. Religion has been the central protagonist to some unholy acts in the past, right? Well, if you think so, you might have missed the mark. See, the reason behind these conflicts is one's belief that my religion, my God, is the truth, and all must see it that way. We made religion into a weapon to channel our natural tendency to attack and to take revenge. Literature has now and then reflected on this part that religion plays in shaping our identity. Shakespeare's play, The Merchant of Venice, stages such a struggle that has survived with us till the present date, the clash between Christianity and Judaism. Throughout the play, Shylock is often ridiculed for his faith, to which he retaliates with thoughts we all share as humans. And here are his words.
To bait fish withal. If it will feed nothing else, it will feed my revenge. He had disgraced me and hindered me 500,000. Laughed at my losses, mocked at my gains, scorned my nation, thwarted my bargains, cooled my friends, heated my enemies, and what's his reason? I am a Jew. Hath not a Jew eyes? Hath not a Jew hands, organs, dimensions, senses, affections, passions? Feed with the same food, hurt with the same weapons, subject to the same diseases, healed by the same means, warmed and cooled by the same winter and summer as a Christian is. If you prick us, do we not bleed? If you tickle us, do we not laugh? If you poison us, do we not die? And if you wrong us, shall we not revenge? If we are like you in the rest, we will resemble you in that. If a Jew wrong a Christian, what is his humility? Revenge. And if a Christian wrong a Jew, what should his sufferance be by a Christian example? Why, revenge! The villainy you teach me, I will execute. and it shall go hard. But I will better the instruction. June 3rd, 2020. Major cities go under curfew as the United States witnesses violent protests after an African American man named George Floyd was killed by a police officer. This latest remembrance of a dark past of racial inhumanity has now seen the arrest of 4,000 people across the nation. August 13, 2010. 2 months of violent clashes with the security forces has left at least 55 people dead in the Indian state of Kashmir. What started as peaceful protest against the killing of 3 Kashmiri youths by the army has now taken the shape of a decades-old battle for freedom. June 4th, 1989. Cries echoed across the Tiananmen Square as the People's Liberation Army marched with battle tanks against its own students. Thousands who gathered to speak about democratic reforms became ideological enemies to the communist state. Rebel groups and protesters show the constant conflict that exists between those who rule and those who are ruled. The idea of becoming a social animal has often crossed ways with the human ability to think and act. See, to be part of a society demands a structure, which when enforced, creates instability in the minds of unheard voices. It then takes no time for these sides to get labels, be it white versus black, jingoism versus nationalism, dominance versus freedom. Shakespeare's era was another such time, with conflict between Protestantism and Catholicism, between the Parliament and the monarch. The tragedy of Hamlet captures the subdued will to act in conflict with dominating forces. Hamlet was struck by indecisiveness, leading him to straddle the line between action and inaction. Should we kill ourselves in pain and agony, or should we avenge our uncertainty and fight? Let's hear it from Hamlet.
To be or not to be? That is the question. Whether it is nobler in the mind to suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, or to take arms against a sea of troubles and by opposing, end them. To die, to sleep, no more, and by a sleep to say we end the heartache and the 1,000 natural shocks that flesh is heir to. It is a consummation devoutly to be wished. To die, to sleep, perchance to dream. Aye, there's the rub. For in that sleep of death, what dreams may come when we have shuffled off this mortal coil must give us pause. There's the respect that makes calamity of so long life. For who would bear the whips and scorns of time, the oppressor's wrong, the proud man's contumely, the pangs of despised love, the law's delay, the insolence of office, and the spurns that patient merit of the unworthy takes, when he himself might his quietus make with a bare bodkin? Who would fardels bear to grunt and sweat under a weary life, but that the dread of something after death, the undiscovered country from whose bourne no traveller returns, puzzles the will, and makes us rather bear those ills we have than fly to others that we know not of. Thus conscience does make cowards of us all, and thus the native hue of resolution is sicklied over with the pale cast of thought. and enterprises of great moment and at pitch with disregard their currents turn awry and lose the name of action.
June 2nd, 2020. Piet Van Leer, a researcher, said, in advocating for the overthrow of the current Iranian government by assassinating Soleimani, the writers have neglected to mention that the United States overthrew a democratically elected Iranian government in 1953. August 14, 1947, Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru said, long years ago we made a tryst with destiny, and now comes the time when we shall redeem our pledge, not wholly or in full measure, but very substantially. At the stroke of the midnight hour, when the world sleeps, India will awake to life and freedom. March 15, 1929, Adolf Hitler said, as long as there are people on this earth, there will be nations against nations, leaders against leaders, and they will be forced to protect their vital rights, just as an individual is forced to protect his rights. The struggle to lead has been there as long as there have been groups to lead. Like any drug, political control has allured both wise and wicked. They become oblivious to the strongest force in existence, time. Time is the direction of constant change. Like in 133 BC, Rome was a people's democracy. 100 years later, it became an emperor's dominion. Julius Caesar's assassination is one of the most important events in human history. Brutus, the leader of the assassination, was afraid that Caesar will become a tyrant and sums up his motivation for killing Caesar with these words.
Romans, countrymen and lovers, hear me for my cause and be silent that you may hear. Believe me for mine honor and have respect to mine honor that you may believe. Censure me in your wisdom and awake your senses that you may the better judge. If there is any in this assembly, any dear friend of Caesar's, to him I say that Brutus' love to Caesar was no less than his. If then that friend demand why Brutus rose against Caesar, this is my answer. Not that I loved Caesar less, but that I loved Rome more. Had you rather Caesar were living and die all slaves, than that Caesar were dead to live all free men? As Caesar loved me, I weep for him. As he was fortunate, I rejoice at it. As he was valiant, I honor him. But as he was ambitious, I slew him. There is tears for his love, joy for his fortune, honor for his valor, and death for his ambition. Who is here so brave that would be a bondman? If any, speak, for him have I offended. Who is here so rude that would not be a Roman? If any, speak, for him have I offended. Who is here so vile that will not love his country? If any, speak, for him have I offended. I pause for a reply.
We witness these things from a present day perspective, as an issue of now. What's hidden from the plain sight is the history this has with our social fabric. Even though the wrinkled pages from poets capture our mistakes for eternity, we somehow miss to figure out a way not to repeat them. We all might not be together in the mistakes, but we sure are together in the consequences. Until then, it's our job to write down these mistakes till this imbalance goes on between those who learn and those who don't. And with that, we end tonight's show. Wish you all a good sleep.
Humanity as we desire and as we practice is a metaphor to the key ideological divide that has shaped our history. The intention is pure, the implementation is crooked. The act of being human itself gives rise to a reality that is simple to understand but hard to acknowledge: imperfection. Biological evolution has been a result of imperfections, and we as its product fall in the same land. What helped us reach here was again one such imperfection: an intelligent conscience. We commonly understood the value of what we possessed and probably had the most humane thought. We placed a distinct value on all intelligent conscience that lives. We surprisingly had something that has been both the word of God and the rule of law. We had a thought of mercy.
Mercy. You must be merciful. Why? Because the quality of mercy is not strained. It droppeth as gentle rain from heaven upon the place beneath. It is twice blessed. It blesseth him that gives and him that takes. This is the mightiest in the mightiest. It becomes the throne monarch better than his crown. His scepter shows the force of temporal power, the attribute to awe and majesty, wherein doth sit the dread and fear of kings. But mercy is above the sceptered sway. It is enthroned in the hearts of kings. It is an attribute to God himself. An earthly power doth then show likest gods when mercy seasons justice. Therefore, Jew, though justice be thy plea, consider this, that in the course of justice none of us should see salvation. We do pray for mercy, and that same prayer doth teach us all to render the deeds of mercy. I have spoken thus much. To mitigate the justice of thy plea, which if thou follow, the strict court of Venice must needs give sentence against the merchant there.
But did Shylock take the decision to show mercy? To give up his primal instincts of satisfying one's emotional ego and think consciously? Humanity's story has been the outcome of a small dissonance in the symphony of chaos we call the universe. And the lead was sung by a voice, not coming from the infinite void we existed in, but from within these bunch of cells which now knew they existed. A voice of questions that blinded us with the delusions of self-importance. Even a threat to us all, one that has locked us up in these walls we built, can't help us realize how mankind's egocentric circle of concern is just enough for one. I think humanity went wrong when we started raising our newly found self, our ego, as a special child, when all what the universe had given our intelligence was a constant pet to play with, to prevent us from spiraling down into the futility of our own existence. But if reality is that we exist with the capability of intelligence, doesn't it make sense to use it to do what it does best? improve? But again, that is a question. Why are there so many questions?
Why are there so many questions, Ma? Why is everything so complicated?
That's a big question. We make things complicated because simple things are boring for us. We all have great ability to solve new problems, and complications are nothing but unanswered questions. And so, when we find answers to these questions, things become simple for us. The questions of today become lessons of tomorrow. And these things help us to correct ourselves and be better prepared for the next stage of our life. And now it's time for you to prepare to sleep. But before that, and as a present, I would like to read you a story from the great Shakespeare's play, As You Like It, about the circle of life, about how the beginnings and the ends are just two faces of the same coin. All the world's a stage, and all the men and women merely players. They have their exits and their entrances, and one man in his time plays several parts, his acts being 7 ages. At first, the infant, mewling and puking in the nurse's arms, and then the whining schoolboy, with his satchel and shining morning face, creeping like snail, unwillingly to school. And then the lover, sighing like furnace in a woeful ballad made to his mistress eyebrow. And then a soldier, full of strange oaths and bearded like the bud, jealous in honor, sudden and quick in quarrel, seeking the bubble reputation even in the cannon's mouth. And then the justice, in fair round belly with good capon light, with eyes severe and beard of formal cut, full of white sauce and modern instances. And so he plays his part. The 6/8 shifts into the lead and slippered pantaloon, with spectacles on nose and pouch on side. His youthful horse, well, saved the world too wide. For his shrunk shank and his big manly voice, turning again toward childish tread, pipes and whistles in his sound. And last scene of all, that ends the strange, eventful history, is second childishness and mere oblivion. Sans teeth, sans eyes, sans taste, sans everything.
So, when was the last time you slept peacefully?